that then leads into talking a little bit more about exercise as a whole. And should the core be trained isometrically? If I've got my questions up here, so I'll be looking up here just to review them. So, should the core be trained isometrically without movement, or dynamically with movement? So isometric exercises are static exercises. An isometric exercise you would have possibly done before: a plank, a side plank, a bridge, something to that effect. So should we be doing it isometrically or statically, or should we be doing it dynamically? We should be doing both. And there are physiological benefits and psychological benefits off that, or physical benefits and mental benefits from that, which I will explain. And there is sort of a structure and a strategy and a way of progressing, which we'll talk a little bit more about in another question. But essentially, we start isometrically and then move into dynamic. Why do we start isometrically? For the very simple reasons they're simple exercises. Why do we want to do simple exercises? Because we don't want to be thinking about too many parts of the body, because a beginner's brain doesn't have the bandwidth. When I work with people in a gym, I will often ask people, where did you feel that working? And if we've done a big movement, fast movement, they will probably say, I was just trying to get the weight from where it started to where you wanted me to get it. Which tells me all they're focused on is weight going from A to B. They're not thinking about, how is my body actually doing this? What is the position of my spine? What is the position of the hip? What is my knee doing? How am I turning on my foot? What are my shoulders doing through that? How are my hands on the handle or whatever? They're not thinking about all of that. They're just thinking weight A up into B. And how that gets there, as long as the weight gets there, I'm good. Now, if we start with isometric exercises, very simple exercises, takes a little bit of bandwidth, not a lot of mental processing to think, okay, this muscle's working and I can feel it there. Everything else is completely static. As we then move up, we would then add bits of movement into that. Okay, we might move a limb. Okay, so I can think, okay, I can feel my torso muscles working, and as I move my limb, I can focus on just moving the limb and not my spine. So we've got that element to it. Then, once we've got one limb moving, let's move 2 limbs. Then we might move to 3 limbs and 4 limbs. So what you're doing there is not only are you building it the physical capacity, but you're also building the mental capacity. And what I also find is even advanced people, where they have the physical capacity to do it, they don't necessarily have the mental capacity to do it. Because again, I can ask them, where did you feel that working? It's like, don't know. I was just getting the heaviest weight possible from A up into B. And again, where that will look impressive on the outside, it's not necessarily impressive on the inside, if that makes sense. Because the mental processing of how it gets there isn't very fine-tuned. They're just looking at the result and not the process, whereas we want the process and the result. So should you train isometrically without movement and dynamically with it, it's both. But it's more advantageous to start isometrically, build the physical and mental capacity, and then make it more dynamic where you require more physical and mental capacity, and then that will grow as well. So is there a recommended order or progression for core training? Well, I've sort of highlighted it in the previous question. And essentially, it's start isometrically. So start with the plank, the side plank, the bridge. Again, these are my 4 fundamental exercises: plank, side plank, bird dog, bridge. They're the 4 ones. If someone comes to see me and they've got no experience in the gym, I will start them doing those 4 exercises. Yes, there will be more, but essentially I want those 4 exercises. And the reason I want those 4 exercises is because I want them to feel all the different areas of the core working. So I want them to feel the anterior musculature from the plank, the lateral musculature from the side plank, the posterior musculature from the bridge, and then in some respects sort of all of that together with a small amount of movement in a very controlled environment with the bird dog. So we start with these very simple exercises. Yes, we can add, depending on the goals of the person, presses, pulls, lower body exercises, lunges, all these different types. Yes, we can add those. But what I want to get from them first is is your core working, and can you tell that your core is working? So we want to build that first. Then we want to start adding greater strength, endurance, and stability into that. So for example, in a plank, I will get people to then start lifting one arm from the floor, and in a side plank, one leg from the floor, and in a bridge, again, one leg from the floor. The reason I want that is because I want them to maintain position of the hips, which shows good stability. Once I've got them to that point, it's then starting to wrap in certain movements. So chopping movements from high to low, chopping movements from low to high. Then we can start to bring in speed type exercises. So again, it can be sort of throwing of a medicine ball, again from low to high, from just horizontal, parallel to the floor, or low to high, whatever it may be. But again, we build that in layers. So we start isometrically, then we start adding movement in, then we start adding speed with that movement. Because what we're trying to do is train everything that I've talked about so far. Well, if you think back to the function of the core, we're trying to not only build the capacity of the muscles to contract, but also to tune the timing of the core. So when they throw, are they engaging the core at the right time, at the start of the movement? Are they then slowing the weight down and stopping the movement? So again, you can sort of understand that there's different parts to this this movement, where we've got to accelerate and decelerate and then re-accelerate exercises. So we're trying to build all of that, but that doesn't come to the later stages. We wouldn't do that nearer the beginning. That would come later on. So we have to understand all these different things to be able to sort of build someone's core, because I'm not trying to build someone's core strengths, core stability, core endurance. I'm trying to build it all, because I want a good quality core when it's exercising, because then it protects the spine as best as it can be protected.